wondered what the business space looks like in the global village right now? Or how the invisible hand moves in our economic system? We are all aware that we have thousands of transactions per second, and we are mindful of the pressure and the rules it governs. It has now replaced the old Cold War system, and why Friedman has said that is what we'll figure out in the discussion.
Good day, everyone!
I am Bea Carlo Marquez.
And I am Carl Alan Alcantara. We are junior students of BS Accountancy from Polytechnic University of the Philippines, and we are here to discuss the global business place as a field of applied ethics. We are presenting 4 points, starting with the economic globalization and the global business place.
To begin, we have to know first what economic globalization and the global business place means. Economic globalization constitutes the global business place. It is a system. It then creates a global transformation which includes political, cultural, and environmental globalization, migration, and the expanding reach of the organized crimes. The rules of the market are at stake. Why? Because to understand and evaluate economic globalization, one has to investigate and account for not only economic activities and their impact, but also the institutions and rules or the system that governs and should govern these activities and consequences. To know what markets can and cannot provide in the international arena, it is useful to recall the strengths and weaknesses of the market in the domestic context of industrialized countries. And by analysis, properly regulated, free, and competitive markets provide freedom to economic players, which are individuals, organizations, and countries. They have an equalizing impact insofar as they are based on economic performance, expressed by the price system as distinct, of course, from non-economic characteristics such as race, gender, religion, and nationality.
At the same time, we know that economic growth is not necessarily sustainable from economic theory and practical experience. Why do we say so? Because markets by themselves cannot ensure an acceptable distribution of economic opportunities or results. Even if they are perfect, they fail in providing public goods. Moreover, some markets, particularly in the areas of labor, basic healthcare, and education, are inherently unreliable at maximizing aggregate output in these areas. So given these strengths and weaknesses of the markets in the domestic realm, these same factors must be taken seriously in the shaping of economic globalization as well. So what does the global business place really mean? It means global institutions that should not only enhance freedom, efficiency, and economic growth, but also promote sustainability and distributive justice, provide international public goods that are essential for living and collaborating in the global village, strengthen fairness in the labor markets, and ensure basic healthcare and education. What we mean is that the lessons learned in the local setting should be applied to the international system in the making in general and to economic globalization in particular.
Nevertheless, effective, fair, and sustainable global institutions do not suffice single-handed to make economic globalization succeed. The successful game in the system depends not only on the quality of the rules, but also on how the players play. First and foremost, it is moral responsibility of the big players, that is, powerful nation-states, union states, and multinational corporations, to shape globalization according to not universal ethical standards. This enormous task includes two simultaneous tracks. The big players should exhibit exemplary behavior towards the goal of globalization with a human face, while also fairly participating in establishing the necessary global institutions. We are now done with the first point we want to discuss to you. So now, we'll move on to the second point, which is the multi-level and two-legged approach to business ethics. A multi-level and two-legged approach are more sophisticated approaches to the complex field of global marketing ethics. One reason is that they do not suffice to focus only on institutions and rules or on the behavior of particular states and corporations alone in order to deal with highly complicated challenges of business ethics in the process of economic globalization. We need these two approaches in handling business ethics.
Three different levels of acting are proposed by G. Gundlach, L. Block, and W. Wilkie. These are the micro, meso, and the macro levels. Each level includes actors with their respective objectives, interests, and motivations. At the micro level, the focus is on the individual, that is what he or she as employee or employer, colleague or manager, consumer, supplier, or investor does and seeks to do in order to perceive and assume his or her ethical responsibility. Also, groups composed of small numbers of individuals without organization structures making collective decisions and taking collective actions are attributed to this level. At the meso level, the state is the decision-making and action of economic organizations, chiefly business firms, but also trade unions, customer organizations, professional associations, NGOs, and etc. Finally, the macro level includes the economic system as such and shaping of the overall economic conditions of the business. The economic order with its multiple institutions, economic, financial, and social policies, and others. It goes without saying that this conception includes the broad field of the business and society.
In every level, the players are supposed to have more or less extended spaces of freedom for decision-making with corresponding ethical responsibilities, and to be limited by conditions that they cannot change, at least for the time being. No level can substitute for one another. Even if all problems at one level could be satisfactorily solved, many problems at other levels still remain. For example, if all problems in the macro level could be satisfactorily solved, problems at meso and macro levels still remain. And in order to adopt this three-level conception to the global business place, we propose an extended three-level model that accounts for different types of international relations and at all three levels. At the micro level, special attention is paid to the inner group relations and responsibilities across national borders. Examples are cross-national groups of managers and employees or cross-national families. At the meso level, the focus is on inner organizational relations and responsibilities across national borders or the multinational corporations. The macro level includes inner systematic relations and responsibilities across national borders, regional treaties, or global institutions such as World Trade Organization.
Although the extended three-level conception helps to identify different types of players, the two-legged approach suggests how to understand the relationship between ethics and business.
Yes, as applied ethics can have many different communications, so does business ethics as a form of applied ethics. One important idea is to formulate absolute ethical principles and implement them on business practices, which implies that business theory is irrelevant to business ethics. Another approach holds that business ethics has its own imperatives that are markedly or even completely distinct from high ethical requirements. A proposal called two-legged approach offers a more sophisticated understanding on the theoretical level. Applying means placing ethical theory and business theory in a two-way relationship which speeds up productive interdisciplinary communications. With regards to practice, this combined theoretical knowledge is being applied to practical issues like product safety or power in the channel, which in turn influence his theoretical knowledge. This means that business expertise as well as the theoretical knowledge of business, science and ethics should be taken seriously by fostering mutual communication among these three kinds of competencies.
Now we're done in the second point, so we'll proceed to the third one. We will go to the increasing importance of corporate reporting in economic, social, and environmental terms. As the global business place continues to evolve and transform with the modern times, new norms, practices, and strategies have arose to complement these changes and to cope up with the increasing level of competitiveness. Researchers state that compared with the 1980s, expectations about corporate responsibilities in economic, social, and environmental terms are considerably higher. The pressures on corporations by non-governmental corporations have substantially increased. Many companies have expanded their public relations efforts on corporate social responsibility, and various legal and regulatory provisions have supported the emergence of ethics and CSR. Now, along with these changes, the need for corporate reports has also increased. Today, these reports come in various titles and formats like Sustainability Report, Corporate Social Responsibility Report, Corporate Citizenship Report, Energy Report, and Corporate Responsibility Report.
With the advent of internet, these reports are now hugely available for the public, issued on thousands of websites such as ethicalperformance.com and globalreporting.org. Thus, companies must always be honest about these reports and must develop a perspective for an ethical and socially responsible business.
G.R. Laxmiak and P.E. Murphy suggested 7 basic principles for ethical and socially responsible business as follows. First, ethical business puts people first. Second, ethical business must achieve a behavioral standard in excess of the law. Third, businessmen are responsible for whatever they intend as a means or ends with a business action. Business organizations should cultivate better moral imagination in their managers and employees. Also, business should articulate and embrace a core set of ethical principles. Sixth is adoption of a stakeholder orientation is essential to ethical decisions. Last is business organizations ought to delineate an ethical decision-making protocol. Out of these 7, only 2 points are discussed in this chapter, numbers 1 and 5. The first perspective focuses on the centrality of people. This means that the business concepts should be directed where the needs of the consumer are placed ahead before the needs of the businessman. This perspective makes sure that the managers are responsible to the society. When businessmen treat stakeholders merely as a means to earn income or accumulate profit, they fail the test of placing people first.
Businesses should be responsible for their customers, and the iron law of responsibility states that when entities have great economic power and do not exhibit proportionate social responsibility, that power will proportionately diminish. This means that more is expected of the larger organizations such as Toyota and Sony. These multinational manufacturers should be expected to take the lead in bringing responsibility to the markets wherein they operate.
The second perspective in this chapter focuses on is the fifth one. Businesses should articulate and embrace a core set of ethical principles. According to G.R. Laxmiak and P.E. Murphy, businessmen who aspire to operate on a high ethical plane should articulate and embrace a core set of ethical principles. These principles should address ethical issues concerning the rightness or fairness of business strategies. One of these ethical principles is non-malfeasance, which means businessmen should never knowingly do harm when discharging business duties. The second principle is very similar to the first. Non-deception, where businessmen ought to never unintentionally mislead or unfairly manipulate consumers. Deceptions such as overselling extended warranties, channel stuffing by sales representatives can violate this principle.
Next is safeguarding vulnerable segments. It is necessary for businessmen to take extraordinary care when dealing with these vulnerable segments: children, elderly, mentally or physically handicapped, and economically disadvantaged customers. The fourth essential moral precept for businesses is the principle of distributive justice. This principle suggests that there is an obligation on the part of all business organizations to assess the fairness of business plays consequences flowing from their collective business practices.
Another is stewardship, which reminds businessmen of their social duties to do the common good. Because of this, managers are obligated to ensure that their operations will not impose external costs on society, especially the physical environment, that result from their internal operations. The concepts we have discussed can be applied to business organizations regarding the ethical and social dimensions of their decisions. Obviously, the need for transparency and the knowledge that corporate ethical reputation matters are forces that cannot be restricted by businessmen. To end, we conclude that ethical and corporate social responsibility issues should play a vital role in both business strategy development and execution in both local and international markets.
And that is all for our discussion today. Thank you for watching. Again, I'm Bea Carla Marquez.
And I am Carl Alan Alcantara, and together with Vonjan Morales, we are
The Astor Group.